Good evening, everyone. Welcome to An Academy, India's largest online learning portal for the preparation of competitive exams. My name is Neelam, and I'm going to be your educator and facilitator for CAT and other management exams. In today's session, I'm going to talk about some important phrases and words which are going to ease the difficulty level of reading comprehension. Time and again, it happens that when you come across a specific term in a passage and if that term is unfamiliar to you, you are stuck at that phrase and you may not be able to comprehend the meaning of entire sentence because of that phrase or term. Now, since a lot of passages are drawn from art, philosophy, literature, and social science, most of us are unfamiliar with these phrases. So, I have compiled some of these terms and phrases which have appeared in previous year CAT papers and which are likely to appear in this year exams as well. So, this session is going to target some of these phrases which have appeared and which are very commonly used in academic passages, right? So, let's start with today's session, that is words and phrases for reading comprehension. Before that, let me give you a brief introduction of myself. My name is Neelam Malkani, and I have around 12 years of experience of CAT and GRE and GMAT training. I have trained around 20,000 students for verbal ability and critical reasoning section. I have also designed assessment papers of English for reasoning and English for government bodies as well as for professional bodies. I have also served as an examiner of English for an international organization. Very recently, I have authored a comprehensive book of English for the preparation of competitive exams. The book is written in both Hindi and English. The video is brought to you by An Academy. So let me take you to this portal and tell you how you can be part of this and start attending classes which are freely available on An Academy portal. You have to go in the Play Store and download An Academy Learning app. There will be two versions of app. You have to download An Academy Learning app. After filling in all the details, you will be shown 3 categories of classes, plus free courses and special classes. After downloading this app, you will have access to free courses as well as special classes. To attend plus course and to attend classes for CAT, you will have to get the subscription. When you go in the subscription mode, you will see all the features that you will be availing after getting the subscription. Features such as 30 hours of live sessions every day. So as per your availability and as per your convenience, you can choose the time of your classes. You can choose the educator who you would like to be taught by. The classes are delivered by 14 plus top educators of India who have extensive experience of training, guiding students in their respective domains. These educators have wealth of experience of these exams. The courses which are delivered by these top educators are well structured, well designed by those people who have experience of module and curriculum design. These courses are divided into concept building and practice sessions. Every month you get to see a new course being launched on the portal. So a new course which caters to the demand of a specific exam. If we talk about management exams, that has decision making. So you will see a course dedicated to decision making will be launched, right? So that way every month you see new course being launched. After getting satisfied with all the features that you are going to getting, you can choose the model of subscription which have been devised to suit your needs. If you are preparing for CAT 2020 and want to go for a crash course which is going to cater to the exams like ZAT, IIFT which are happening in January, you can go for 1 month subscription. If you're planning for CAT 2021 and you want to do MBA next year, you should take 1 year subscription. So as per your plan of the preparation of this exam, you can choose your subscription. Whichever model of subscription you choose, you will have to type code Neelam if you want to avail 10% further discount. Alright, so that's all about Unacademy. Let's get started with today's session, that is phrases, terms and specific words which appear in academic articles and which appear in your passages. Okay, so most of these words I have taken from last 3 to 4 year papers so that they are relevant and they are still likely to come in this year exam as well as CAT as well as other exams. So I have based today's presentation on the basis of last 3 to 4 years papers. So this term or this sentence appeared in CAT 19 passage. There was a passage which was based on, no, this appeared in earlier years CAT passage, right? So trade protectionism disguised as concern for the climate is raising its head, citing competitiveness concern. So it appeared in one of these years in CAT. So protectionism is the word which I have picked up. So if you are not able to decipher the meaning of this word, you may get stuck at the meaning of this entire word, right? And that will hammer your mind as to what exactly this word or what exactly this entire sentence or paragraph means, right? So don't let it happen with you in this year CAT, and try to familiarize yourself with as many words, as many phrases as possible which appear in academic journals and academic articles. So protectionism is nothing but the principle or practice of protecting a country's own industry by taxing foreign goods. So when a country tries to save or protect its domestic industry, domestic market, by imposing or levy high import charges on other countries' product, other countries' goods, then the country is following the principle of protectionism in order to save its own industry, in order to save its own market. It doesn't want other countries' companies to enter countries' market, right? So that way it is putting barriers, economic barrier for other countries to come into the market, right? So that the domestic player, the domestic market is saved and protected. So this whole policy and principle is protectionism. So this sentence, trade protectionism, is saying that the trade protectionism disguised as concern for the climate. So here, on the pretext of climate, these countries are putting barriers for other countries' product to come into their own country or into their own market. So they are citing the example of climate. On the name of climate, they are doing this, but the actual motive is to save their own country's industry. All right. So this is how trade protectionism can be understood. Here, trading barriers are being put up for other countries' product. Most of the countries do it in different forms. India used to have high import duties for other countries' product before we implemented the policy of LPG, liberalization, globalization and privatization. We used to have huge barriers for other countries. So there was huge import duty, and other countries could, even domestic industry which required foreign goods could not import smoothly. They had to pay heavy import duty. This was just to discourage the products from other countries. So this is known as protectionism. So if this appears in one of the passages, now you know what it actually means, and then you can comprehend entire meaning. All right. Now this word appears in last year CAT, that is CAT 19. So in one of the passages, the sentence was an anti-capitalist conservationism, not conservatism, right? So that right there, author also put that word in the bracket, that this is not conservatism, this is conservationism, that solaced itself with the vision of a pre-industrial golden age. So, kind of dense sentence which makes it very difficult for you to understand what it actually means because of this word, anti-capitalist conservationism. So conservation, I hope all of you understand what conservation means. So conservation is to conserve what you have. So your natural resources or your all the resources that you have, when you try to conserve them, when you try to protect them, when you try to preserve them as they are, that is what is conservation. So you see people working as conservationists because they want to protect their natural environment. So a person who advocates conservation, especially of natural resources, or a person who takes an active part in protection of the environment is conservationist. Right? So from this only you can understand a person who tries to conserve the resources he has is, and the person who believes in that ideology is conservationist. So a meeting of local conservationists. So here in the sentence, the anti-capitalist conservationism. So anti-capitalist, this theory is at odds with capitalism. Why? Because capitalism believes in exploiting all the resources a country has, or a person has, or an area has, right? So capitalism believes in taking full advantage of all the resources, harnessing all the power the natural resources have, even at the expenses of security, even at the expenses of natural erosion. So that way, this policy is at odds with capitalism. So this whole idea, this whole sentence says that it's not conservatism. Author says very clearly it's not conservatism. So conservatism is different from conservationism. That solaced itself with a vision of pre-industrial golden age. Author calls pre-industrial era as the golden age, where we used to have affinity with our natural resources. We used to conserve our natural resources. Came the capitalist economy or capitalist form of ideology, we started exploiting our resources. So this is the whole idea expressed in this sentence in the Cat 19 passage, right? So conservationism is protecting. Conservative, on the other hand, means someone who is very traditional and orthodox in his approach, right? He's not progressive, he's not open-minded, he does not listen to other people's with open heart, or he does not accept other people's belief with open heart. Rather, he is very closed. So that way, conservative is different from conservation, right? So here, in the passage itself, author made it very, very clearly, this is not conservatism, this is conservationism. I hope the distinction between these two phrases is clear, as well as the meaning of conservation is also clear. Anti-capitalistic. Why it's anti-capitalistic? Because capitalism believes in exploiting the resources, conservation believes in preserving the resources. Let's go for next term, that is egalitarian. Now, Jawaharlal Nehru, we celebrated his birthday recently on 14th of November, which is celebrated as the Children's Day in India. He thought of creating India as an egalitarian society because there was caste system in India. When he was the Prime Minister, India was divided into different castes and creeds, right? So caste and creed, some people were considered superior because of their caste and other people were considered inferior because of the caste they belonged to. So this created huge disparity in society with different sects. So he thought of creating in India as an egalitarian society. So egalitarian is classless, where everyone is equal. No one is given any preference or importance just because he comes from a specific community or he belongs to a specific religion or he comes from a specific class. Everybody is given equal status, everybody enjoys equal power and responsibility. So one of the penalties of increased focus on religious and communal identities is a weakening of the pursuit of egalitarian commitments. Understand this sentence, which appear in one of these years in CAT. So here, one of the penalties, that means one of the outcomes, one of the punishments of increased focus on religious and communal identities. So here the sentence wants to say that when you focus too much on your communal identity or on your religious identity. The egalitarian fabric of the country is compromised, because when you start thinking too much about your religion and thinking too much about your community, then you may not see equal society emerging in India. The egalitarian principle is heavily sacrificed, compromised. Alright? So here, egalitarian. I hope from the sentence you can make out what it means. Let's try to understand it further. When something relates to the idea that all people are equal and is in equal rights, it is egalitarian. Right? So I hope you understand what egalitarian means. It means equal rights, equal opportunities, equal status for everyone. Nobody is beneath or nobody is above. Right? Everybody is same. Okay. One more word which I will try to read out the sentence first and then try to see if you are able to make out the sentence. He thought there was a real danger that India would slide into an abyss of sectarianism. India will slide into the abyss of sectarianism. Danger. So it was a danger, that means it's not something positive. And author was actually scared of this outcome happening in India, that India may slide into an abyss of sectarianism. So something negative. Sect, different caste, creeds, sect. So sect is basically one particular religious or political group, especially when this leads to violence between different groups. So when there is a huge group, so let's say if you are talking about religious groups, so Hindu is a huge group, huge community. Now in Hindu you see different sects, right? So sect who believed in Vaishnav, who believed in Shiv, who believed in other god and goddesses. So there are different sects. Usually the word is used in a negative connotation. Usually when it leads to conflict between two parts of the same religion or two parts of the same community, right? So that is what sectarianism is. So there is no unified force which exists in a community or in a religion. Even in the same religion you see different sects. So if you talk about Islam, there are different sects in Islam, right? So this is how it leads to the disintegration of a religion or a community, because there is no cohesion in that particular religion or unity, because there are different segments or fragments. Alright? So sectarian is different sects in a community or a religion. So reports of a rise in religious and ethnic sectarianism. So ethnic, so possibly that is something which we don't see much happening in India, but it's very common in other countries, right? Racial sectarianism or ethnic sectarianism. Victims of sectarianism. So when we talk of a sect, it is generally a group of people with somewhat different religious beliefs from those of a larger group to which they belong. As I said, Hindu is a large group, you see different sects. So Jainism is a different sect of Hinduism. You see Vaishnav, there are different sects of Hinduism. You see those people who believe in Shiva, Shav, they are different sects of Hinduism. There are multiple sects within Hindu community only, within Hindu religion only. Alright? So that is what is sectarian. So more are sects in a religion, the weaker will be that religion. Alright? So from that you understand why this word is negative. Right? And that's why the sentence says he feared that the real danger that India would slide into an abyss of sectarianism, that there will be so many sects that it will get into a deep hole. Alright? Let me read out the sentence as okay, fine. Polemical. So poles, right? So we have North Pole and South Pole, which are opposite to each other, which are contrastly opposite to each other. Polemical, when you have polemical issue, or when you have an issue is polemical, debate is happening on a polemical issue, that means the issue is extremely controversial. It polarizes people. People tend not to have moderate views on that issue. The issue divides people into two different poles. Alright, so that is what is polemical. So from pole you can understand it divides people into two different poles, right? So it divides people into two different opposite groups. Look at the sentence. Charles has pithily described this intensely polemical work and the rather bizarre controversy it generated. Right? So from the sentence you possibly understand the controversy this issue has generated or this work has generated. So some authors are termed polemical, some cartoonists are also considered polemical because the kind of craft they created, the kind of work they created, polarized the society. Some were vehemently against them, whereas some wholeheartedly support their work, right? So, and they actually faced a lot of backlash because of the work they created. You can um, possibly understand from the example of Salman Rushdie, the kind of books he wrote, kind of issues he covered in his books, made him a polemical author, right? And that's why he was ostracized from his own country and he had to face a lot of consequences, rather dire consequences, because of the kind of writings he had. So, polemical author. We had Taslima Nasreen. She writes in a very controversial way, or she picks up the topics which are very highly debated and highly controversial. So she is also termed as a polemical author, right? Recently, some cartoonist who made a cartoon which hurt the sentiments of a specific community. So this whole issue became polemical, right? So polemical is highly controversial because it tends to divide people into two different groups. So polemical means critical, something that you do not agree with strongly and are critical about. In this line, we are talking about a critical work and the controversy generated, right? So it may be a book, it may be a movie, it may be a cartoon, it may be any piece of art which is considered polemical, or any statement which is polemical, controversial, all right? Okay. So hedonism, please read the sentence first. Even those inclined towards hedonism were stalled by the absence of choice. So if you do not understand the word here, you may not be able to realize or understand the meaning of this whole sentence, because this word is at the core of this entire sentence meaning. Hedonism is nothing but pleasure seeking. When you indulge too much in pleasure, with food, with wine, traveling, staying in lavish places, enjoying all the things, luxurious things, is hedonistic philosophy, right? So you are not at all austere in your mannerism, or you do not abstain from any kind of pleasure, and you enjoy life to the fullest. And that too by indulging in luxuries only. That is what is hedonism, right? So this whole philosophy believes that you get life for once and you should enjoy it to the fullest by indulging in all kind of pleasures, right? So hedonism means being in the pursuit of pleasure or someone who seeks luxury. Now this line actually means those people who are inclined to hedonism, that means who always seek pleasure, they had to stop, or they were stopped because they did not have many choices in the market. They did not have many products before them, they did not have many offerings before them. And those people who always seek pleasure, they had to stifle some of their desires and they had to compromise with the kind of products that were available in the market. Alright, so that is what this whole sentence means. A hedonistic will not get satisfied easily. He will not get contented with limited set of options before him. He would always want to have more, and he would always want to have the best thing available in the market. So here, a person who is hedonistic will have to be stalled because there is absence of choices in the market. Alright, so this is what this whole sentence means. So as I said, if you don't know the word meaning, you may not be able to interpret the meaning of this entire sentence. So for some sentences, it becomes extremely crucial for you to understand these words, and that's why we are having this session. Dogmatic or dogmatism. I hope you have come across this term in some of the passages, or maybe in some of the parajumble or summary based questions. This word time and again very frequently is covered in academic passages. So dogmatic means rigid. Dogmatic means when you absolutely abjurate about what you believe, what you think, and what you deem to be important, right? So our propensity to look for regularities and to impose laws upon nature leads to the psychological phenomenon of dogmatic thinking, more generally dogmatic behavior. So this was a line which appeared in one of the passages of Kant. So here the author wants to say that we have very set belief, or we have a very set pattern of thinking. We are conditioned to think in a certain way. So this thinking leads to dogmatic way and dogmatic behavior. We start believing that everything is designed in a set pattern. We start believing that nature around us will also behave in a set way. So whenever some aberrations happen, whenever something bizarre happens, we cannot digest it very easily, because as we are dogmatic, we expect everything around us, the environment also, to be dogmatic with us, rigid with us, fixed with us. So that is what this entire sentence is. We expect regularities everywhere and attempt to find even where there are none. Right? So nature is known for its vagaries. Nature is known for its ups and downs. So we start expecting nature to be fixed because we are fixed, because we are dogmatic. As we are conditioned, we want our environment also to be rigid and fixed with us, and that environment includes nature. Whereas we know nature can never accord the principle of same or continue, right? So it is something which is always changing. So dogma refers to a principle or set of principles laid down by an authority as true, and we continue to follow that authority, right? So that is what is dogmatic, rigid, fixed, and following a set pattern of thinking. That is what is dogmatic. So dogmatic ways of teaching or dogmatic ways of doing business, that means you are not innovative. You are possibly not very progressive in your outlook, and how you were taught. You have been blindly following the way you were taught. And you are blindly following the way you were taught in your own classroom for teaching. So that is what dogmatic way of teaching is. Or the way you were instructed or you were directed to teach, you have been following that pattern without giving it a thought whether it's working or not, whether it's giving any fruitful result or not. Set pattern of doing something. That is dogmatic. Alright? No innovation, no progressive outlook, no forward looking attitude. That is what is dogmatic. I hope with all these words you would have understood what this word means. Underscore, underpin. Now, very frequently this appears in critical reasoning as well and in passages. So underscore and underpin, I took both these words because they are very, very deceptive. Now you are asked to underestimate or undermine the author's reasoning, author's argument. So whenever critical reasoning question comes, sometimes you are supposed to weaken author's argument. Even in RC questions, sometimes the examiner asks you to underestimate or undermine what author stated in the paragraph. So both these words mean you have to weaken author's opinion. So in a way, you have to prove author wrong. But when these two words come, you have to do just the opposite. Underscore, underpin. Both the words mean you have to support author's reasoning. Right? So you have to choose the option which supports or bolsters author's line of reasoning. So don't be belied by these two terms just because they start with under. They do not mean undermine, they actually mean support. So which of the following statement would most strongly underscore the author's main point? Underscore, that means you are underscore, that means you are actually underlining. You're underlining, that means you are supporting. Alright, so that's how you can understand. Underscore is to underline, that means you are supporting it. Underpin is anything which is laid down before a physical structure to give it support. So when you have a mental structure before something, so to give it support, so you are underpinning something by metal. You're underpinning by concrete, you're underpinning by stone, right? So underpin is to bolster something, right? So underscore, underpin both means to support something. So don't get confused because of these two terms. If they appear in one of the questions, what you have to do is to support, be it in critical reasoning or in reading comprehension. Look at the sentence. The report is underpinned by extensive research. So the report is supported by extensive research data. So here it's supported. Alright, so both the terms, they are very deceptive because they start with under and they seem to be in line with underestimate or undermine, but they actually mean support, strengthen. So that's a very interesting word. That's a very interesting word because it was declared the word of the year in 2016. Post-truth, right? So it's a hyphenated word because in one of the exams this was given as which way the word is written, right? So post-truth without hyphen, with hyphen, as a single word, or other way, right? So that way, please see, this is always written in hyphenated way. 2016, this was declared by Oxford Dictionary as the word of the year. So such was the usage of this word in that year. It was so prominently used in different articles, narratives, discourse, that it gained the reputation of being the word of the year. Why? Because of Brexit, one of the important events which shaped the geopolitical history of Europe, and second, US presidential election, because of which Donald Trump became the president, right? So in these two events, this word was extensively used, hence it became the word of the year. Now let's try to understand what it means, because it also appeared some of the passages in 2017 and 18, not in CAT, but other exams, not only in CAT, but other exams as well. Now, post-truth is after truth, right? So truth is something which is indisputable. Truth is something which brings people into agreement because it is agreed by everyone. The truth is something which is verifiable. Truth is something which is based on fact. Post-truth, that means beyond truth. Now, beyond truth, what it is, let's understand. Relating to or denoting circumstances in which objective facts are less influential in shaping public opinion than appeals to emotion and personal beliefs. So the kind of narrative which is woven around emotional, sentimental argument, rather than giving piece of facts, rather than telling people truth, you tell them an emotional saga, and with that you try to ride on their emotions. You means political leaders. You mean those people who address public, who address audience. So instead of giving them hard facts, instead of giving them clear picture, which is true, they try to ride on their emotions. They arouse their emotions, they arouse their fear, they arouse their prejudice, and we take advantage of them. That is what is post-truth, beyond truth. So beyond truth, that does not mean ultimate truth, but it actually means something which is tinged by falsehood, right? So some commentators have observed that we are living in a post-truth age. That means facts are no longer relevant, right? So people do not see what truth is. Rather, they are heavily influenced by emotions. In this era of post-truth politics, it is easy to cherry-pick data and come to whatever conclusion you desire, right? So you are entitled to have your opinion. You cannot have your own facts. But this statement actually proves you can also have your own facts, because you can cherry pick data which suit your narrative, which suit your argument, and prove that you are correct. All right. So here, selectively, these politicians pick the data because these data only are supporting their argument, and they very conveniently ignore the other data which is proving them incorrect, as was done by Donald Trump, as was done by other politicians who came into power by riding on the emotions of public, by fooling them. In this post-truth, in this post-truth era, science is needed more than ever. Science, something which is verifiable, something which is based on truth, fact, and data, which is not contestable. So this time we actually need science more than ever, because we need those people who have scientific temperament, who have scientific attitude, who are not arousing people's religious emotion or sentiments, rather giving them hard facts. Alright, I think I explained it very clearly, and hope it made it very clear that what it means and why it gained this distinction of becoming the word of the year in 2016. Alright? The word is empirical. This is the word which is based on facts, data, and experiments, right? So based on experiments or experience, then ideas or theories, right? So when you have empirically proven something, that means you have proven it with data and facts. Empirical evidence means you have already done some experiment and now you have these data. So just opposite of theoretical. So when you have just a theory, it's theoretical. When you have empirical evidence for that theory, that is how you have proven the theoretical concepts. So empirical is based on experiments. Empirical evidence, empirical knowledge, empirical research. So such claims need to be tested empirically. So there is a claim, it has to be tested with experiment whether it's true or not, empirically. The use of experiments or experience as the basis of your idea, the belief in these methods. Somebody who is empirically inclined will always try to prove the theory, prove the claim, prove the thesis, right? He will not always believe what has been stated. He will always try to find the evidence of what he has been taught or what he has studied. Then only he will believe in that. So empirically inclined person will always try to seek truth by experiment, right? So empirical or empiricism, so that this belief or this staunch belief in this ideology is empiricism. All right. Canon. Look at the sentence that I have chosen, which appeared in one of the passages. Thinking of language as an instinct inverts the popular wisdom, especially as it has been passed down in the canon of the humanities and social sciences. One of the passages which is based on language and how it is acquired in human, how it is different from other creatures. So this was a passage based on language acquisition, and the canon appeared in that. Very academic word, you may not find this in conversations or in colloquial terms, which is confined to books and academic essays only. So you need to be familiar with this word meaning. So this is nothing but a generally accepted rule, standard or principle by which something is judged, right? So here, when the sentence says it is passed down in the canon of the humanities and social science, that means it has been stated as one of the principles of humanities and social sciences. So canon is nothing but principles. The canon is nothing but a standard which is followed and which is accepted by everyone. Look at the sentences. The canons of good taste. So the canons of good taste means when you judge food, there are some canons that you are going to follow, right? So what ingredients have been used and how flavorful it looks, how tasty it is. So usually some canons which are followed, which are standard to be used by everyone, are canons. Market sovereignty, the central canon of Thatcherism. So here, market Margaret Thatcher, one of the prime ministers of Britain. So she had a specific ideology which she implemented in market. So here, central canon of Thatcherism, right? So look at Thatcherism. T is capitalized here because it's referring to a proper noun. Central canon means central principle. Alright? Now this canon has single N. When you have canon with double N, so sometimes confusing words also come. So it's a homonym because the pronunciation of both the words is same though the spelling is different. So is the meaning. So canon, this canon means principle, rule which is accepted by everyone. CANNON canon comes for arms and ammunition. So if you have been to a fort in Rajasthan, you see some fort have that big top which is there on the outer wall, right? So that is nothing but a cannon, right? So CANNON, cannon means that arms and ammunition which was used earlier in artillery. This cannon means principle with single N, all right? Pragmatism or pragmatic. So when you call somebody theoretical, and then we understood what empirical means, this word is pragmatism. A person who believes in practical aspects of things. Instead of theory, instead of what is there in the books, he would always try to see the practical aspects of it or the application part of it. Thinking about solving problems in a practical, sensible way rather than by having fixed ideas and theories. Just opposite of dogmatism. So dogmatism would always believe in the set way of doing things, whereas a pragmatic person is very sensible and practical in solving problems or in doing things. The claims were based on reason, pragmatism, and common sense. The new government needs pragmatism, not some vague ideology. The ideology which is not tested, the ideology which is not verifiable, or maybe the ideology which does not have empirical evidence, whether it's proven or not. Here, we need a government which needs pragmatism, solving problems with pragmatic solutions. The policy was based on economic pragmatism, not on the policies which are bookish, not based on the policies which are taught in economic schools, but rather pragmatism, what is happening in the market. There is something of divide between principle and pragmatism. Now please understand this. So principle is something which is theoretical. Principle is something which is there in the books. Or principle is something which is laid down as true in a theoretical way. But pragmatism, when you go in the ground, when you see something happening, when you see the application part, so that is entirely different. So principle, pragmatism, so there is a great divide. Principally, that's all right, but when you see the pragmatism, it's opposite or it's just very, very different. All right. So pragmatism, something which is based on application, something which is based on practical and sensible approach. Okay, existentialism. So this word has philosophical meaning because this appeared in some of the passages which are based on philosophical concepts. So I just would read out these questions for you and would try to elicit responses from you what this word actually means. Who am I? Question mark. What is my real nature or my identity? Why have I been sent on this earth? What my purpose on this earth is? What is the meaning of life? What is the meaning of my existence? What am I meant for? What is my existence meant for? So when I have all these questions, I'm having my existentialism questions or existence. So this entire theory that humans are free and responsible for their own actions in the world is existentialism, right? So you exist, that is why everything around you is happening. You exist, that is why you are having all the things around you. That is what is existentialism, a philosophy or approach which emphasizes the existence of individual person as a free and responsible agent. So your fate is decided by yourself. Your actions decide your fate. You are free individual. So nothing is deterministic, as the theory of determinism believes that whatever you do is already determined by other forces. You are not free. Unlike that theory, existentialism puts reliance on an individual's freedom, absolute freedom. All right? So you believe that is why you are. And whatever you have around you, you have created for yourself. All right? So this is existentialism. Now, with this only, there's another term, existential crisis. So if you have defined yourself as a teacher or a tutor, and suddenly comes a point where you don't have anyone to teach, or when you possibly lose your job, or you lose your students, or you lose the opportunity of interacting with a huge group of people, or because of your ill health, you are suddenly unable to teach while discharging your duty as a tutor. It poses a question before you, that what is left in you, or what is left in life for you. That is existential crisis, because you have defined yourself as a teacher. You have defined yourself as a person who teaches others. So if that comes to a standstill, the whole idea of your own existence also becomes questionable, right? So you can understand the existential crisis by understanding when a person's existence comes into question. So when a lady, a woman who is a housewife, devotes entire life, her energy, her time, her effort, everything to raising her children, looking after her husband, and taking care of her family or her home. And suddenly, when children leave home for higher education or for their marriage or for as an individual, when they start forming their own personality and they are not completely dependent on their parents, especially on their mother, that women can have existential crisis because she defined herself as a mother. That's the whole role she confided herself into. So after that role is about to be over, or after the point where she's not as much needed as she was earlier, she would feel that her own existence has come to a question. So that is what is existential crisis. So existentialism and existential crisis, though they are connected, but they actually define two different things, right? So existentialism is you are the creator of your own environment. You are the creator of your own fate, right? So you are a free and free individual who create everything around you. An existential crisis is the crisis which happens because the way you have defined yourself comes to a point where this does not apply on you anymore. All right, so that is what is it. I have also given one example. You identify yourself as an athlete and have a promising career. Then you have a severe injury and your career is over. At that point, you would have an existential crisis because you have defined yourself as an athlete only. So that's the sole purpose around which you have defined your life, right? So if that comes to an end, you seem to have a deep void within yourself. That is very difficult to fill because that was the whole thing that you built your life around. So you become that void, that lacuna in your life, and then you have this crisis. All right. Most of the time, people after 40 have this existential crisis because they are at the crossroad of their life, right? So they are towards their old age, they are um, at the end of their youth, towards the end of their youth. So they have this existential crisis that what is it they want to do now? What is it that they are meant for now, right? Just opposite of existentialism is deterministic. This theory believes that people are not free to choose what they are like or how they behave. Everything is already decided. Everything is predestined to happen. So your environment is going to decide what kind of person you will be, or your other things which are beyond you, which are not in your control, are going to decide, like the kind of parents you have, the kind of brother and sisters you have, or other things that are beyond your control are going to shape your personality, are going to shape your life. So everything is deterministic, or the kind of place you are born into, right? So that's beyond me. The kind of family I come from, so that's beyond me. So these things are deterministic because these things are going to decide what kind of person I emerge out to be, right? So this theory is deterministic, just opposite of existentialism. Existentialism says you are free, independent, completely liberated to build the life you want, whereas deterministic is you are constrained by the forces beyond your reach, beyond your control. So look at the sentence. It would be overly deterministic to say that if the party did change its leader, the new one would continue to make the same mistake. Right? So it would be highly overly deterministic to say that the next leader is going to repeat the same mistakes that other leader did earlier. Right? So I hope we are clear with the meaning. Authoritarianism is nothing but dictatorial. So authoritarianism, the kind of government which is distinguished by a high degree of state power. State power means a person who is in the control of the state. State does not mean the state or the province. State means a country. So here a person has a high degree of control, and he uses his discretionary powers to control or to regulate that country. So that is what is authoritarianism. Same as dictatorial. So when a person is dictatorial, he uses his power to control or to govern that country without taking care of the dissent, without taking care of other people's opinions, especially the people who he is ruling, right? Authoritarianism, principle of blind submission to authority. So those people who are the submission, they will blindly follow the person who holds the authority, who holds the power, as opposed to individual freedom or thought of action. So this kind of authoritarianism, this kind of leader will not allow dissension, will not allow different voice of opinion, will not allow much freedom and liberty, because if people enjoy liberty and freedom, they will always voice their opinion against this kind of leader, this kind of dictatorial person. So in this kind of regime, you would not see a lot of people enjoying personal freedom or liberty. They will be in the submission. So it's a kind of a political system which exists even in this time in some of the countries. So earlier, if you remember, when this Jasmine revolution happened, so Libya, Colonel Gaddafi, he was an authoritarian leader there. He ruled Libya for considerable period of time. Before that, in Egypt, there was Hosni Mubarak, right? There's a famous example of North Korea, right? So this person has been ruling in a very authoritarian way, right? So people do not have any liberty or freedom. Everything is ruled, governed, regulated by this dictatorial person. All right. So that is what is authoritarianism. It's a political system that centers power in a hand of a leader or a small elite group. So those people who share power. So that group of people, that elitist group of people, share all the authority, all the power, which is still happening in some of the countries of Latin America and Middle East. So those people who belong to a royal family or a specific noble family, they have unrestricted powers and they regulate the entire country, because the entire country does not enjoy freedom of expression or other kind of liberty as to oppose or be subvert these people's government. I just picked the picture of this Augusto Pinochet was the authoritarian dictator in One Latin American country, Chile. Chile is a country which has recently voted in favor of rewriting the constitution. Since you must be taking IFT as well, and IFT is going to have one part as GK, 20 questions will be there for GK. So you should start reading about these stuff, especially about these recent developments in political and international arena. So Chile is a Latin American country which has recently decided to rewrite its constitution, right? So Augusto Pinochet was the president there, 1970. He subverted the civilian government there. He came into power through a military coup, right? So coup is nothing but toppling a civilian government. It usually happens with military intervention. He was there for 17 years. He ruled this country for 17 years. In this time, thousands of people disappeared and were killed because of his autocratic regime. So Syria, North Korea, Libya, Egypt, I give you example of these countries have authoritarian government, right? Now same word is also absolutism. So absolutism means absolute power, unrestricted power. You are not answerable to anyone. So a political system in which a leader or government has total power all the time. That is absolutism, authoritarian and dictatorial. All three words coming from same concepts. Alright, so here I come to the end of today's session. Let me give you a quick revision of all the terms we did today. We started with protectionism, that is conserving your own resources in order to stop other countries, in order to put barriers for other countries to enter into your market because you want to save your domestic industry, which is usually done by all underdeveloped countries. Those countries which are not developed, they want to save their own domestic industry, domestic players, so that they thrive, they flourish in that conducive environment and they don't face fierce competition posed by the players of developed countries because they would give superior quality in lower prices, whereas the domestic industry will not be able to compete with them. So in order to protect your domestic industry, you levy high import duties or you put some barriers in terms of other duties and tariff and charges, right? So that is what is protectionism, trade protectionism. Conservationism, so conservation, when you try to conserve your natural environment, that is what is conservationism. Conservative, on the other hand, means the conventional or orthodox. Egalitarian, same, equal. So you have equal power, you have equal status, you have equal opportunity. That is classless. Nobody is above or nobody is below. Sectarian, different sects or different segments of the same community or a religion. I gave you example of Hindu. I also gave you example of Islam, where Sunni is a different sect, Islam, or Shia is a different sect, Wahhabi is a different sect, or there are other sects in Islam as well. So these are different sects of a same community or a same religion. Polemical is very controversial. Hedonism, pleasure seeking, indulging too much in luxurious things or those things which give you a lot of enjoyment. Dogmatic is hardliner. Dogmatic is fixed. Dogmatic is a person who is extremely mulish about his own ideas or his own beliefs, right? Who does not waver on his idea, and very negative word. Underscore, underpin, both words come for strengthening something, supporting something, bolstering something. So when you are asked to underscore author's opinion, that means you have to find an option which is going to prove author correct. Same goes for underpinning. Underpinning means to lay a foundation for supporting something, right? So underpin. Post-truth, the time where the truth is on the back burner and falsehood intermingled with facts, intermingled with emotions and sentiments is given to people to appeal to their senses, to appeal to their prejudice, right? So that is what is post-truth. I give you example of two prominent events which led to this word chosen as the word of the year in 2016 by Oxford Dictionary. The events were US presidential election and Brexit. Both the events were the leaders who were prominently known for these two events, they try to evoke people's emotion, their audience emotion. They indulged in demagogy and they took advantage of people's emotion, right? So that is post-truth. Where facts are at the back burner, truth is at the back burner, rather emotions, feelings, sentiments, and a bit of falsehood is given. Empirical is proven, is something which is based on evidence, is something which is based on experiments, all of these. Canon with single N is a principle, is a standard. CANN is for answer and evaluation. Pragmatic, when you call somebody pragmatic, that person is extremely practical, not ideological, not theoretical, but believes in practical application of something. A person who does something in a very sensible way is pragmatic. Existentialism is you are free, a philosophy which emphasizes on the approach of an individual person as a free and responsible agent of creating his own life. Whereas deterministic is just the opposite theory, which says that your life is actually determined by other forces beyond your control. And the kind of life you are leading, the kind of life you have is determined by other forces, all right, so which are beyond your control. Just opposite existentialism. Authoritarianism is dictatorial, is controlling power or exerting unquestionable power in order to suppress people. So authoritarian, dictatorial, and absolutism all are same. So when these terms now come in your passages or in other questions of the verbal ability, I hope you will be able to make some sense of the sentences they appear or the passages they appear. I will take one more class with these phrases only before your exam so that wide-ranging areas are covered. In that, I will try to take up the phrases which are for art, literature, and philosophy. All right? Thank you very much for watching the session, and do let me know your thoughts and opinion about the session today, and also to give me the feedback about what topics you want me to cover in coming sessions before your exam, especially if you're targeting this year CAT, what topics you want me to cover. All right? Thank you very much.